The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar tonight. Eva Smith is here with me. Say hi, Eva.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
And we're going to start the webinar off with a couple of more labors of Hercules, and then we're going to have a guest presenter presenting her chart. And then next month, we'll do another couple of labors, and then we'll have two guest presenters. And then it looks like we will be wrapping up the series in January with the remaining labors, and Eva is going to wrap it all up talking about the crosses for us. So we're slowly coming to the end of this particular series of webinars, and I hope everybody has learned a lot in the process. So let me start. We're up to the Virgo myth right now, and the Virgo labor was to seize the girdle of Hippolyta. Hippolyta had been given this girdle by Venus, who of course is the queen of love, and it was a symbol of unity achieved through struggle, conflict, strife, and the symbol of motherhood and the sacred child. Just as she was explaining to her women warriors that she had been ordered to give up the girdle, asking them for advice on whether or not she could give it up or fight, Hercules actually arrived to claim it. Now, Hippolyta faced Hercules, and he fought and struggled with her, not realizing that she was actually trying to tell him something. He wrenched the girdle from her before he even noticed that her hands were held out, offering him the gift as a symbol of unity. He slaughtered her, and then could only stand over her aghast at what he had just done. Then he heard his teacher speak. "My son, why slay that which is needed, close and dear? Why kill the one you love, the giver of good gifts, custodian of the possible? Why kill the mother of the sacred child?" Again we mark a failure. Again you have not understood. Redeem this moment before you seek my face again. And Hercules, he gathered the girdle. Distraught, he faced home, and he left the women bereft of their beloved leader. Dejected and wandering, he heard shrieks from Hesione, who'd been captured by a sea monster, holding her between his jaws. Hercules promptly rushed to her aid, but it was too late to save her. He tried anyway. Braving the monster, he rushed down his throat to rescue Hesione from the monster's belly, slashed his way out to get both of them out. And so in losing sight of his own woes, he helped someone else. And in doing so, he balanced the previous act of taking Hippolyta's life. For that is the way of life, we're told. An act of death, a deed of life, and balance is learned. Christ consciousness is conceived and nurtured in Virgo through the period of gestation until at last in Pisces that world Savior is born. As in Leo, Virgo is a cave experience in the womb of time, and it should be characterized by warmth and quietness, by deep experiences and slow yet powerful crises. We see that the glyph for Virgo is triple, and the curving in can actually be seen as the womb. In esoteric astrology, where DK talks about Virgo, he tells us that Eve is the symbol of the mental nature, that Isis stands for the same expression on the emotional or astral plane, and that Eve has no child in her arms. The germ of the Christ life is as yet too small to make its presence felt. The involutionary process is still too close. But in Isis, the midway point is reached. The quickening of that which is desired has taken place, and Isis consequently stands in the ancient zodiacs for fertility, motherhood, and as the guardian of the child. And then Mary carries the process down on the physical plane into incarnation, and there gives birth to the Christ child. So in these three virgins, these three mothers of Christ, you have the history of the formation and the function of the three aspects of the personality through which Christ must find expression. So we see that the sign of Virgo itself stands for synthesis of these three feminine aspects, Eve, Isis, and Mary. The war between the sexes is of ancient origin, and it's inherent in the duality of humanity and in our solar system. There are small but important points in this story that are not to be overlooked. What did Hippolyta contribute to the error? She offered Hercules the girdle of unity, but was it because she wanted to or because she was ordered to? Why did the Amazons make a yearly sortie into the world of men? Was it to make war on them, or was it to seek unity in which there was no heart? Was it to seek new members for their manless world? What was in their heart when they ventured out? This time the teacher spoke very harshly to Hercules, asking him why he killed the mother of the sacred child, and again marking a failure, telling him he did not understand and that he had to redeem himself before he came home. It's to be noted that the labor was not described to Hercules as the other labors had been. The word went out only to the country where the queen of the Amazons ruled, a world where men were excluded. It was left for Hercules to understand the nature of the labor, and he did not. As always, there is a choice for good or evil with any sign, depending on the status of evolution and the degree of sensitivity. Virgo is called the goddess of virtue or of vice. But what is the root meaning of vice? It means to render ineffective. And that for Virgo is to negate the whole purpose of the sign. For it is said that the Christ is the purpose of existence. The root of evil is really our narrow minds, our hard, small hearts that cause wrong attitudes and wrong habits. The body is an automatic response apparatus subject to the control of the inner man. Virgo is also called the goddess of the two ways, because as the Holy Mother principle, she symbolizes matter and also is the custodian of the Christ life. In Virgo, the first of the steps towards spirituality is taken. The soul is called the son of mind, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury, carrying the energy of the mind. The body should be attuned to the soul and bring its beauty into manifestation to redeem it. All this is implicit in the sign of the Virgin and its labor. In the secret doctrine is a clear statement of the whole message of this sign. Matter is the vehicle for the manifestation of the soul on this turn of the spiral. A soul is the vehicle on a higher turn of the spiral for the manifestation of spirit, and these three are a trinity synthesized by life which pervades them all. DK talks about the first 5 labors being the path of probation. They lead up to the point in Virgo where the stage of discipleship begins and the birth of the Christ in the heart is possible. So it can be seen as a sign that synthesizes all that came before it in preparation for that birth. Another unique feature of Virgo is that it has that triple symbol. The only other one to have that is Scorpio. This is significant, implying that these 2 signs are connected with the growth of Christ consciousness. They mark critical points in the soul's experience, points of integration, where the soul is continuously at one-ing itself with the form and at the same time with spirit. Virgo is one of the arms of the mutable cross with its opposite sign Pisces, and Gemini, the airy Gemini and fiery Sagittarius complete those 4 arms. That's the common cross. Its description is as follows: the cross of the Holy Spirit of the 3rd person of the Christian Trinity, as it organizes substance and evokes sensitive response from substance itself. On this cross, the man reaches the stage of acquiescence and aspiration, and so prepares himself for the fixed cross of discipleship. The personality here is dedicated to material ends in order that he may eventually learn their divine use. The misuse of substance is the greatest of Hercules' sins, in that he did not understand that the queen of the Amazons was to be redeemed by unity and not killed. Over and over again, the Tibetan emphasizes the fact that it is through the medium of humanity that a consummation of light effectiveness will be produced, which will make possible the expression of the whole. So what we see here is that a disciple must always be on guard, yet his failures are only temporary, a mere delay in his spiritual mission, and fresh opportunities will occur when he is given a second or a third, or however many chances it takes to perfect the lesson and move onward on his return to spirit. So let's look briefly at Virgo in context of everything that we've learned about it. It represents both the form and the spirit and is where the Christ child is nurtured. Negative traits include being overcritical, too fastidious, too harsh, or judgmental. Positive traits are attention to detail, intelligence, practicality, analytical ability, and reliability. Esoteric concepts involve the nurturing of matter and the guarding of the hidden Christ within the depths of all of us. It nurtures intelligence, wisdom, and pure reason. Virgo has Mercury as the exoteric ruler, and a keynote from the angle of form is let matter reign. This is that versatile energy of the son of mind, the soul, here serving as the mediator, the union between the father and the mother. The moon veiling Vulcan is the esoteric ruler, and the keynote from the angle of the soul is I am the mother and the child, I God, I matter, am. Both Mercury and the moon are 4th ray energies, but now it's an expression of that first ray through Vulcan. The moon rules the form, and it is Vulcan as the will of God to manifest by using that form. So the switch here is from intellectual pride and the concrete analytical mind of Mercury's lower expression to recognizing the importance of matter and how it must be nurtured and raised to that highest level to be a fitting receptacle for our soul. Virgo is the birth of the soul in the cave of the heart, and its polar opposite is Pisces, which is the expression of soul consciousness. The axis that eventually needs to be balanced and then recognized as the same line with that joint purpose is one of nurturing the soul within the heart and bringing it into conscious manifestation. Okay, before I move on to the next one, did you have any comments about this labor, Eva?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about the symbolism. Let's look at the glyph that you have already referred to. I don't know if you want to pull it up or not, but yeah, pull it up if you don't mind. So in the glyph, we see the triplicity of this sign. It has a triple part, right? And even though that closed area at the tail end of it looks like a moon, it is also said that it could be the closed hymen of the virgin woman that has not been sullied yet by life, so that there is purity within that form. So it hasn't been broken, it hasn't been sullied, it hasn't been affected yet. She is, after all, a virgin, and that's why she is called Virgo. That's one aspect of the glyph. The other thing worth mentioning is that in the keynote, which reads, "I am the mother and the child," so we have the idea of the feminine aspect and the mothering. Of course, the child, we all know, is the Christ principle. I, God. So here you have the spirit aspect. So you have the Christ aspect with the child. You have the spirit aspect, I, God, I, matter, am. So you have the third aspect, the form. So contained within that keynote are these three aspects that are referenced with Virgo. And as BL has said, we have these three goddesses, Isis, Eve, and Mary, all representing the form. So that was one thing I wanted to say here. The other thing is, in the labor itself, there is constant references to the female. There is the Amazon, the queen of the Amazons, the teacher saying, "You killed the mother of the child." So again, there's a mothering feminine quality here. And the girdle, usually we think of a woman wearing a girdle, and the girdle over time in our society represents wearing it around our middle, around our tummy, and that is where we have our intestines. So hence it has to do with digestion, ingestion, the harvesting of what Virgo represents as well as the gestation of the womb when one is giving birth. So the girdle, again, is a feminine icon, so to speak. One more thing I want to talk a little bit about, and then I'll let it go, and that is that in the previous first of all, Virgo and Cancer are the two oldest signs that we have. They were around in the previous solar system. You know that the previous solar system had to do with the development of the third aspect, the intelligence aspect, or matter for that matter. So Virgo deals with matter, and Cancer is still a mother as well. Cancer is often referred to a mother, and so is Virgo. So we see the mother and the form being emphasized. So in the previous system, there were 10 signs. A combination you had of Virgo and Leo. And we see that in the Sphinx. The head representing the Virgo, the feminine, and the body representing the lion. And the lion dealt with the animal nature, while Virgo was the whole idea of the form and the mothering and the Christ principle. We are told that in the next solar system there'll be 10 again, but this time Virgo will be coupled with Libra. So this is interesting for you, Yvonne, since both Virgo and Libra play such an important role for you in your chart. But there we will see again the Christ principle, the the form, those two aspects of the personality united with Libra, which represents the mind. So we'll have moved up to have all these three aspects united together. Anyway, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. All right, and since I don't see any questions, I will move on then to Libra. This labor is to capture the Ermanthian boar. I'm sorry if I'm butchering some of these names, but okay, so Hercules passes through the seventh gate, but he didn't realize as he set out that this was actually a dual test of friendship and courage. He climbed the mountain seeking the boar, and he saw the fear and terror of the people around him. Then he meets up with his friend Pholus, who was a centaur, and so he stopped and talked to his friend, and he just completely forgot all about his task. Pholus invited him to have some wine, but the problem was that the wine Pholus was offering him didn't belong to just Pholus, it belonged to a whole group of centaurs. And when Hercules and Pholus feasted on the drink and became quite rowdy, they created a lot of noise, and it brought a group of centaurs who then got very mad at him when they realized that these guys had drank up all of their wine. So this big battle took place, and in it Hercules' friends were killed. And so he again had become this instrument of death. Dejected, he went back to his task. He followed the boar high up in the mountains, but it eluded him for a while. He set a snare and he hid, lying in wait patiently hour after hour for the boar. And finally the boar emerged, searching for food, and Hercules caught it in his snare. Now he traveled down the mountain with his prize, and he was singing and dancing, and he actually drove the boar by the hind legs as he went down. It was this big merry sight, and everyone saw it, and they laughed at the antics, no longer afraid of this big bad boar. So Hercules performed this seventh labor. He returned to his teacher, and he was told that this was a lesson of true balance. The teacher advised Hercules to ponder on the lessons of the past and to reflect on the tests that he'd faced, because twice he had killed what he should have loved, and he needed to figure out why. So Hercules stayed there within the city gates, preparing for what was coming, which we all know the next labor was the mother of all tests. So here with this one, Libra has some marked extremes depending on whether we're moving counterclockwise or clockwise, because it's one of the most difficult signs to understand. Because of this, the two different ways that we can go. It can be justice. It can be a blind woman holding the scales of balance. It can be an interlude comparable to the quiet listening in meditation, a time of assessment of the past. The average man approaches Libra through the drastic tests of Scorpio, while the more evolved man enters into the Libra test from the sign of Virgo, with the Christ consciousness stirring in his heart and mind. This is why in this quiet sign of Libra, we actually work on the problems of sex and money. Both can be either good or bad masters according to the use made of them, right? Balance is needed, and it may swing from bias and prejudice to justice or judgment, from dull stupidity to enthusiastic wisdom. Is the Libran characterized by materialistic or spiritual attitudes? We need to remember that the signs themselves all have a specific person and lesson that they teach us. None are bad, and all have a good purpose. It's our receptivity and use of them that determines what it is that we actually manifest. Now, before Hercules captured the boar, remember he got distracted and he sat down with his pal Pholus and drank heavily. At this time, he was the soul of friendliness. He was seeking and finding pleasure. For Hercules, as for all who assume the Libran labor, the fumes of pleasure must be dissipated before the greater task of self-mastery can be undertaken. This time it led him to tragedy. The sudden interjection of catastrophe into the pleasure-seeking experience can be harsh, but it's necessary for the growth of the soul. Without these kinds of tragedies, the potentialities of Libra remain dormant. Two good centaurs that Hercules killed are known as Carrion, good thought, and Pholus, bodily strength. This test was to show control of the emotional, astral desire nature in whatever form it may take. And it is all the more powerful the more advanced a human being is. You cannot control or guide the desire nature by physical strength or by thought alone. You may succeed for a time, but then it surges back up in you again. The only answer is to take the boar of desire up into the high mountains, because it's on the mountaintops that all great revelations occur, where the mists of the valley disappear and illumination comes. Hercules made a dire mistake. He had to demonstrate his fitness to take the second initiation by balancing the pair of opposites. The Libran weights and balances all things. This can make him appear hesitant and indecisive. He knows that there are innumerable gradations between black and white. He doesn't want any of those extremes. His quest for truth becomes changed into the development of discrimination. The Libran is perpetually spinning threads of relationships, creating a sensitive network of meanings. The result of such activity is synthesis. Between the concrete and the abstract, he stands, trying to relate the two. Halfway between heaven and earth, he waits. Looking above, he sees the vision. Looking down, he sees the mire that he must pass through. It's at this midway point that he must stand and work. If he rises towards the ideal world, he loses touch with common things. But if he descends into the level of materialistic activity, he loses the precious perceptions that are the heart of his being. Looking into human hearts, he sees the obscure shadows. He discovers the awful way that some people will use to establish their own success, the dark spots in the lives of supposedly reputable men, and the clever ways they use to evade their conscience. With this observation, the good and the bad, the discernment of right from wrong, the glamours that surround him are gradually weakened and dispelled. He sees more clearly and recognizes that man lives in a swirling mist of illusion, clinging to life as an end to itself. The Libran concerns himself with other human beings and their struggles, rather than pursuing aggressive means to get ahead. Service takes root in his life, based on a realistic appraisal of human nature. And in this sign of balance and justice and the law, we find that the test ends in a burst of laughter. It's the only labor that does so. Hercules didn't use brute force in taking the boar captive. He set a trap, he waited patiently, and then he tamed the boar gently, not coercively. Down from the mountain he went, trundling the boar like a wheelbarrow, singing and laughing, and the onlookers laughed with him. So what have we learned? Libra typifies equilibrium. It's an interlude where duality is known and the life of the soul and form are balanced in all things: the law, sex, and money. Negative traits: detachment, unreliability, indecisiveness, superficiality, or being too laid back. Positive traits: tact, charm, diplomacy, harmony, balance. The esoteric concepts teach us the right use of the mind to discriminate between the pairs of opposites and find balance on that narrow razor-edged path between. We learn to express right values and right human actions. Libra has Venus as the exoteric ruler, and a keynote from the angle of form is "let choice be made." It's an expression of the intelligent mind, whether that's through desire or love. Uranus is the esoteric ruler, and the keynote from the angle of the soul is now "I choose the way which leads between those two great lines of force." This brings that seventh ray to Libra. And we see it working out as the relation between physical need and the supply of energy to accomplish what needs to be done, like create money necessary for the spiritual work that has to be done. The switch here is from vacillating between either or to realizing they are both extremes and finding that middle ground, finding the right use of money, not for selfish desire, but for divine manifestation. We looked at Aries earlier with its will to create, establishing mental control, and now we're looking at its polar opposite, Libra, which is about achieving that continual balance through mental control. Together, that dynamic axis that they form needs to be balanced and then recognized as the same line with the joint purpose, that of establishing balance, mental control, and soul control over the personality. Okay, Eva, what are your comments on Libra?
Oh, there's so much I could say about Libra, but I'm not going to do that. Only two things I'm going to say. We note the three rulers, which are Venus, Uranus, and Saturn. All these three rulers are mental, like they're planets of the mind. With Venus, we can think of it in this context that I'm trying to get at. We can think of it as values and representing money. So we have the idea of money. Uranus rules the sex organs, so here you have sex. And Saturn rules the throat, but is also the judge and is also about law. It's the law, it's the gauntlet that comes down, so law and legislation. So here you have the three things that Libra is known for: money, sex, and legislation or law. That's what I walk away with from here. But one other thing that I wonder if other Librans experience this. The Laborer speaks to Hercules walking down holding the hind legs of the boar and everybody laughing. So it brought out in him something unique, something different, something unusual. And I wonder if Librans, because of the way in which they use their mind, come up with things that are different to solve as a solution to solve problems, doing things in a unique way. I didn't want to make this personal, but I know that that applies to the way in which I live my life. I'm always coming up with things that are out of the box, a little bit different and unusual. And maybe Yvonne, when you get a chance to do your chart, you can address that if that applies to you. But I'm always wondering, do other Librans, have that Uranian approach to coming up with different ideas and different things? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Okay, well, if I don't see any questions, so let me move on to the mother of all labors, Scorpio. Okay, so his task is to destroy The Hydra of Lerna. The stagnant swamp of Lerna was this unbelievably rank place. The stench polluted the atmosphere for miles around. When Hercules approached, he had to pause. The smell was just so overpoweringly bad. The oozing quicksands were a hazard, and more than once he was almost sucked down. At length he found the monster's lair in a cavern of perpetual night, but the Hydra was concealed. By day and night, Hercules haunted this treacherous area, waiting for the Hydra to emerge. Finally, he thought to dip his arrows in burning pitch. He fired them into the cavern so that he could see. The Hydra, its 9 angry heads breathing flame, emerged. It was large, it was ugly, it seemed to be made of the foulest thoughts conceived since time began. The Hydra sprang at Hercules, but he stepped aside, clobbered one of the heads, but no sooner had this horrid head fallen into the bog than 2 grew in its place. Again and again he attacked this raging monster, but it grew stronger, not weaker. Then he remembered what his teacher had told him. We rise by kneeling. So casting aside his club, he knelt. He grasped the Hydra with his bare hands and he raised it upwards, suspending it in midair. Its strength actually diminished. The purifying air and light had their effect. The monster, strong in darkness and in swampy muck, lost power when the sun and the wind fell on it. The 9 heads drooped, and as they lay lifeless, then Hercules perceived the immortal head. He cut off the one true head, still fiercely hissing, and he buried it beneath a rock. In esoteric astrology, DK tells us that the 9 heads represent the 9 tests of Scorpio, and then Labors of Hercules actually explains that to us. The lair is our subconscious shadows, and patience is needed to find them in all the hidden caverns of our mind. These are the accumulated evil, mistakes, and failures of our past lives that need to be exposed to the wisdom of the soul. Hercules had to see the Hydra as one monster, not a beast with 9 different heads. As long as he sought to sever the heads one by one, he was unsuccessful. When he finally dealt with it as a unit, that's when he gained victory. Our soul is immortal, and at times our personality may seem like it is too. It actually dies with each life, and it's resurrected with each new incarnation, right exactly where we left off, continuing the process of evolution and serving as a conduit for the soul. In the myth, Hercules cut off the head and buried it under a rock, and we're given the phrase hidden under the rock of the will to consider. We can see that as the immortal head was the concentrated energy and thought forms that created the monster in the first place, and that's why they still remained. Now we're purified and redirected, but that power must be continually controlled and rightly channeled, and then the will of the soul can use it as a source of power. In other words, the will of the soul here is burying the form, it's burying the personality, keeping it from rearing its ugly head again, finally putting it to rest as the 9 tests of the personality have been passed and the disciple has learned to channel that inherent energy rightly now. Oops, I hadn't quite finished. So what exactly are those 9 heads? 3 of the heads symbolize the physical appetites associated with sex, comfort, and money. The second group concerns the passions of fear, hatred, and desire for power. And the last 3 represent the vices of the unillumined mind: pride, separativeness, and cruelty. Establishing right human relations and right relationships with the soul and environment are key factors in redirecting and transmitting these 9 tests. The 3 qualities of character that Hercules had to express were humility, courage, and discrimination. Humility to see his plight objectively and recognize his shortcomings. Courage to attack the monster that lay coiled at the root of his nature, and discrimination to discover a technique for dealing with his mortal foe. He invokes a brighter light than that of the analyzing mind. He seeks to raise his problem to a higher dimension, not to stir endlessly in the cesspool of the subconsciousness. Endeavoring to see his dilemma in the light of the soul, he confronts it from a new angle of vision, and by doing so, he breaks the Hydra's grip and eventually subdues the beast. He admits light into those dark recesses of the subconscious. He grapples with the monstrous forces that wallow in that subliminal slime, and he overcomes the enemies of his own making. A cleansing process has now taken place, and he's ready to embark on the next labor, which he'll have to demonstrate his ability to control the powers and potencies of the mind. So what we see is that these tests are all about extremes, the good side versus the evil side, just as all pairs of opposites are to be at one in this great sign, the sign of the conscious disciple who has integrated all aspects of himself. The monster dwells within each of us in the caverns of our mind. In the murk and mud of unlit mental recesses, it can be quiescent at times or burst forth in this tumultuous frenzy. Its existence is not easily discovered. A long time passes before the individual realizes that he is nourishing and sustaining this monster. Every time a low desire or thought is overcome, others will take its place. But remember, he does 3 things. He recognizes the existence of the Hydra, searches patiently for it, and finally destroys it. Discrimination is needed to recognize its existence, patience to discover its lair, and humility to bring the slimy fragments of the subconscious to the surface and expose them to the light of wisdom, that light of day. As long as Hercules fought in the bog, amid the mud and slime and quicksand, he was unable to overcome the Hydra. He had to raise the monster into the air. He had to translate his problem to another dimension in order to solve it. In all humility, kneeling in the mud, he had to examine his dilemma in the light of wisdom and in the elevated atmosphere of searching thought. From these considerations, we gather that the answers to many of our own problems come only when a new focus of attention is achieved and a new perspective is established. This is the 4th-rate problem of achieving harmony through conflict, of facing the problem of finding yourself in battle with 2 different sides of yourself, until you can step back and gain a new perspective, and everything shifts and you are able to translate the problem into another dimension. And so we look at everything we've learned about Scorpio. Its conflict, its test, its trial, and eventually triumph. It brings us from one crisis to another, and those usually end up being important moments of reorientation for us. It's both the turning point for the individual as well as humanity as a whole. Negative traits, jealousy, secretiveness, moodiness, restfulness, always trying to control and manipulate. Positive, determination, fearlessness, loyalty, ambition, and intuition. Esoteric concepts are about the mind taking control of the battle being waged on the mental plane. Through continual tests, trials, and triumphs, the conflict of duality overcomes desire and illusion. Scorpio has Pluto as the modern exoteric ruler and Mars as the more traditional ruler before the outer planets were discovered and assigned. The keynote from the angle of form is let Maya flourish and let deception rule. Mars rules the physical form, and with the tests of Scorpio and the lower vehicles, a warrior fighting spirit are needed for the multiple crises that go on. Pluto digs deep and it roots out all the hidden anger and dross that needs to be brought up to the surface and dealt with. Pluto represents the death of the personality and regeneration. Mars is the esoteric ruler after the triumphant battle, where he has mastered the serpent of evil and can experience the serpent of wisdom. The keynote from the angle of the soul is now warrior am I, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. The switch here is from controlling, manipulating, and antagonistic behavior to a more controlled mental approach of directed action for spiritual goals. We looked at Taurus before, desire and aspiration and the goal of the soul line, and now we're revisiting its polar opposite Scorpio, which is about the conflict of duality and desire overcome. The axis that eventually needs to be balanced here is learning to use the wisdom of the light of the soul to overcome desire through right thought, right action, and right relationships. Okay, Eva, any comments on Scorpio?
Yeah, just one. Can you go back to the glyph, please? Okay, so we see this glyph, which is a computer-generated glyph, but somebody created it, and whoever created this one did not really understand Scorpio. There are some on the internet that are proper. This one ain't, as they say. So we see the triplicity again in those three loops, just as we did in Virgo, and that represents the three-headed Hydra and the three sets of tests. But the tail has an end that is the scorpion bite. We see that, right? It can really dig in. It can penetrate deep. But the way that that should really be represented is that the last loop should go down lower than the other ones, and then it should come back up again, and the arrow should be pointing upward rather than across horizontally. If we look at that arrow upward, then we understand the function of both Mars and of Pluto. And in Scorpio, everything is meant to dig down deep and to bring everything up to the light of the soul, the wisdom of the soul. So that arrow needs to go up. Also, that arrow is similar to the same arrow we see in Mars, right? We see that same action in Mars, and the arrow points up in Mars as well. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Eva. And now, if we have no other questions, then what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our guest presenter. Are you ready to present your chart, Yvonne?
Yes, I am, but I do have one question about the Scorpio thing. So there's 9 heads of the Hydra. Now the 10th head is buried under a rock. Is that right? Wasn't there a 10th head that was immortal head was buried under a rock?
That was the immortal head. Once he raised
Where did it come from? Where did it come from? If there were 9 heads, where did the 10th head come from?
The 9 heads were the illusion and the mire and muck and all of that stuff. They weren't the real ones. It was the immortal head that was the real one. And there's actually different versions of that myth, but the one that we're given in this particular book on the labor of Hercules, he lops the head off and buries it under a rock.
Yeah, that's the part I never understood, because in Labors of Hercules, like they say, there's different viewpoints what happened to the 10th head. But
Right.
Okay. I shall start, and you can interrupt me whenever you want. That's fine. The hemispheres and quadrant influences. I have Eastern Hemisphere, 9-2, North-South, 5, South, 6. I have strong Eastern Hemisphere self-initiated activities, either alone or in a group. The North houses are introvert 5 and the South are extrovert 6. So I think I'm pretty balanced. I need a little more time alone than with others. I live alone except for cats, raccoons, and birds. And examples of self-initiated activities. I decided I wanted to become a healer. I went to Barbara Brennan School of Healing and finished in 1996. I started Full Moon Meditation Group in my house about 15 years ago, and that's still current. I did start esoteric healing groups a few times, and they fell apart. People were afraid of the energies, that they were going to hurt themselves, and they did fall apart. Decided to go to anesthesia school after I finished nurse's training, went back to school after my divorce and got my BS and master's in health science. I've taken stained glass classes and have done projects. And I did a mosaic of the Moria Federation on a table about 7 years ago. I took ballroom dancing lessons and roller skating lessons and learned how to dance on both. Since I've retired, I've joined the Y, and I play pickleball tennis for old people a few times a week, and I've been taking duplicate bridge lessons for the last 2 years. So I have a lot of esoteric self-initiated activities and many exoteric self-activities and hobbies, both for myself and group, and I think I'm fairly balanced there. Shall I go on to Ascendant?
Yeah, hold on just one second. I just have a couple comments, and Eva may too. So thank you very much for showing us that. So basically you're saying that that's where all of this comes in. And so you're really quite comfortable with doing things that you think are important to you, the self-initiated activity, and you're not just sitting here at home waiting on someone to call and say, hey, I want you to do this.
No, I always decided if I waited for that, I'd go nowhere and get nothing done. I didn't have the guts to try to do it myself, even overcoming my fear to do that.
Okay. Eva, did you have any comments?
No, I'm good. I'll save some of mine towards the end.
Okay. Go ahead then, please.
Okay, the second is Ascendant. My Ascendant is 00 Virgo. And the Ascendant is the method the soul uses to express its purpose. The lower sign key phrase is let matter reign. The higher phrase is I am the mother and the child. I God, I matter am. Virgo is associated with gestation of the spirit soul within the womb of the mother substance, from the critical materialistic personality up into the purified and creative consciousness of the disciple, and then into the Christ awareness of the initiate. From esoteric astrology, the mother, matter, or materialism controls the personality. The focus of the thought life is to acquire worldly things. With a narrow, judgmental perspective, it measures people by their value in the material world. That's from esoteric astrology. The higher key phrase, I am the mother and the child, I God, I matter, am. And this is a quote. This emphasizes the fact that all things in the universe are but various forms created by God and through which God is working out its purpose. Aspirants must overcome judgmental thoughts and materialistic attitudes. The purification work is necessary so that the Christ consciousness, love, wisdom, is able to express through the heart. They use Vulcan's power to become protectors of the people, to become leaders and experts in their chosen profession or field of work. Now, in my career, I was a nurse anesthetist for 50 years. I put people to sleep, and I was their guardian angel. That meant that I woke them up, too. Okay, when I was younger, my focus was in acquiring material things. I liked crystal, china, purses, clothes, cars, silver, antiques. I identify now with the higher phrase, and my main focus is spiritual. My life has been about purifying my physical, emotional, and mental bodies. I exercise, I stopped drinking alcohol, I quit smoking, and I try to eat a healthy diet and keep red meat to a minimum. I'm a nurturer. I take care of everyone. I love to feed people and animals. I love nursing and taking care of sick people. Sign weaknesses are critical, perfectionist, tries to acquire earth treasures, power used for selfish material gain. One of my weaknesses was I used to love to criticize people, and I was told I was painfully honest. I thought, well, I'm honest. They said, no, you're painfully honest. It's hurtful. I was never a perfectionist. I didn't have to be perfect, probably because I didn't have the patience. I now try to remember harmlessness in thought, word, and deed, and mind my own business, and sometimes I even succeed. Sign strengths are hardworking, mentally studious, practical in personal and professional affairs, kind to people. I am hardworking, 75% effort to be truthful, 25% lazy, Taurus. I give myself a lot of mini vacations. I've always been a good student, and I enjoy learning new things, and I'm usually kind to people. Now, the Ray weaknesses in Rays 2 and 6 come through Virgo. Ray 2 is oversensitive, fearfulness, over-attachment to people, need to be loved, inability to say no. There was a time in my 20s and 30s when I was controlled by fear. I had agoraphobia. I had no idea what that was about. It took years of therapy and mental health training to overcome it. The drinking which I did to relieve the stress only made my shaking and fear worse. As I've progressed spiritually, my fears have gone away, so I took that hydra up and raised it up, and that's what really healed it. Ray 6, blind faith, rigid idealism, selfish intolerance, excessive emotionalism. I had 21 years of Catholic schooling and was very intolerant and idealistic. I was close to age 50 when I realized God wasn't Catholic. It was my way or the highway. I am divorced because I was selfishly intolerant. And as I wrote here, I couldn't live with me either. It was I've softened over the years, but I was divorced when I was 36, and I am 76 now. So, Ray strengths. Ray 2, compassion, understanding, patience, desire to heal, and teaching. I have developed compassion, a desire to heal myself and others, and patience to a degree. I'm not really a teacher. I can do it, but I don't enjoy it. I decided to go to healing school because I wanted to be a healer. Chiron. I found out when I did that I had to do me first, and that has been a lifelong project. Ray 6 strength is strong and faithful devotion towards an ideal person or principle, the power to persuade, ability to arouse and inspire others. And this would be my commitment towards my spiritual path, while allowing others to walk theirs in their own way and in their own time. I wasn't always that tolerant. I thought that I was right. Now I can see that everyone has to walk the path at their own pace. The rules of the road. Always someone ahead, always someone behind. Exoteric and esoteric. Okay.
Hold it. I would just like to say, number one, thank you. You're doing a great job as you go through the tools that we gave you, and as you're relating them to what you know about your life. So you're actually saying, yes, I can relate quite well to this Virgo ascendant. I can relate to it from the exoteric angle, where I had those flaws, because the ascendant exoterically is that face we project to the world. It's all about us and who we are and our identity. The other thing about Virgo that I saw shining through everything that you've said is the esoteric qualities of the healing aspect of it. Virgo is associated with the 6th house and with the healing aspect. And so it carries that energy with the sign, no matter what house it's in, and that was your profession. So even in your exoteric way, you were moving towards what you eventually decided was your soul purpose. So I find that just remarkable that you're doing what we told you to. You took all the tools that we gave you and you're relating them, and you're finding very good examples of how to point that out, both exoterically and esoterically, through the sign itself, through the rays. And now I would like you to continue doing the same thing with the rulers of Virgo.
Okay, as you said, the exoteric ruler is Mercury, fourth ray, and the esoteric is the moon, veiling Vulcan, ray 4 and ray 1. Mercury signifies the versatile energy of the son of mind. Mercury is communication. I'm in Moria Federation and doing this webinar. Grandma's come a long way in the past 7 years learning how to use technical equipment, and particularly the computer. Also, I'm learning how to communicate with people without alienating them. And I believe that Vulcan is helping me eliminate material things and people from my life that aren't compatible with my spiritual path and don't serve a higher purpose. And the moon rules the form. The moon, veiling Vulcan, stands for glorification through purification and detachment of matter. Vulcan, ray 1 energy, steadily becomes unveiled as it takes over lunar control of the personality. Vulcan is the esoteric ruler of my moon unveiled, and it then becomes the esoteric ruler of my ascendant and of my entire chart. In esoteric astrology, I found a paragraph that resonates with me. It states, Virgo is related to Taurus through Vulcan, which brings in what might be called the endurance aspect of the will to be, which carries the incarnated Son of God through experiences of the dark time, wherein the personality becomes the mother in the stage of gestation, through the period of infancy upon the physical plane, and through the stage of adolescence, until the initiate attains full maturity. This necessitates persistence, endurance, and the continuity of effort, and is one of the characteristics imparted or stimulated by energies pouring through Vulcan. That's from Esoteric Astrology, page 274. Now, I feel this quote describes my life. I've needed these qualities to endure. I've had to overcome being jilted by the love of my life when I was 21, alcoholism, agoraphobia, divorce, and losing custody of my children. Looking back, this has cleared the path for my spiritual growth. I've had to turn inward to God. Aspects of my ascendant. My Virgo ascendant, the aspects, I'm going to quote, I have to work these out slowly. A lot of this stuff I just got from BL. My Virgo ascendant squares Uranus. Virgo ascendant squares MC point. The exoteric ruler Mercury squares Jupiter. So I said, I'm not sure what this means. Square is hard lesson and the Jupiter is benevolent. So maybe my communication skills, both technically and socially, have gone from hard to much easier. My esoteric ruler of the moon, Vulcan, squares Pluto. Perhaps Pluto has brought up things from the past for me to clear or eliminate. Okay, and next is Vulcan. This should be within 8 degrees of the sun. My sun is 3 degrees Libra. And I also read that it states that it's in Mercury's orbit. So I hypothesized that my Vulcan is between Mars and Mercury in Libra. So
I would just like to say one thing here. There was a time when Dr. Baker was using the hypothesis that Vulcan had gone inside and was captured by Mercury, but I think he later recanted that, and most of the people I know who use Vulcan as a hypothetical planet within the chart stick with the 8 degrees of the sun. I think some of them are saying it could possibly be within 10 degrees of the sun. But what that means to you is it could possibly be in Virgo, but it's most likely in Libra, and it could be between the sun and Mercury. There's no question about that.
Okay, I'll scratch out that part about Mercury that I read in the orbit. I didn't read that part that he took that back. All right. The first labor that we did on Virgo is the path of discipleship is in Virgo, and it was badly done. The disciple must not be off his guard or he can fall back, so I can identify with that. And Alice Bailey, was a quote that she said, she was talking to a novice when he said that his astrology chart was working out exactly. And she said, well, that's too bad. If you're really living above your solar plexus, your personality chart would not be working out so exactly. So I enjoyed that. My ascendant is loosely sextile Mercury, but since we allow, this is yours, BL words, but since we allow wide orbs for the ascendant sun and moon, 5 degrees is close enough to count. This brings an opportunity to work on developing exoterically right human relations. And my ascendant is loosely trine my moon, a favorable aspect showing they can work together, overcoming the moon's past patterns to help nurture and purify the emotions for the work of the soul. We have both divine aspects, mother, child, mother, matter, child, spirit. And it's been all about purification for me. So is there any comments on that, Lisa?
Well, first I want to say thank you very much for working with those aspects. I know you don't quite understand them, but it's important to look especially at the rulers and the aspects. So this square over here, even though it's out of sign and it's off a little bit, is still definitely close enough to count. It sets up a relationship between the exoteric ruler, who is in Libra, and your ascendant.
Can you point while you're doing this? Can you point while you're doing this? I can follow it, but I have to do it slowly, and it helps me if you point out what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I was pointing. I was just doing it on the wrong computer.
Oh.
Here's your ascendant here, and here's your Mercury right here. And in order to be exact, Mercury would actually need to be in Scorpio, but it's not quite there. But that's okay, because this is just barely in Virgo. So it's out of sign, which means there's going to be a little wacky relationship to the square, but it's there. And it is a relationship, and any relationship is important. Also, it is in more exact aspect to Chiron, which you mentioned as being very important to you. He is the wounded healer. He is a healer. And that is an expression that you were working on. It's here in your 12th house. It's conjunct your ascendant. So the relationship is stronger between these two here. But it works. It shows that they're all working together for that aspect of Virgo that is your healing work, your healing aspect. Okay, and then of course you also talked about the trine here with your moon. That's a little bit stronger, but it's actually a little bit wider, because this is 650. Well, it's 6 degrees apart, and this one was only 5 degrees apart, but still. Those are key aspects of the rulers of your chart to your ascendant. So it means there is a dialogue between them.
And could I also mention that since you brought up Chiron here, and Chiron is in Leo, Leo is about one's self-identity, and it is the healing part that you refer to, Yvonne, that you have to work on yourself first, heal yourself, all the various aspects of your personality you had to heal. And that's what Leo would represent here. And it's in the 12th house, so you have to dig deep, and Pluto's there too. You had to dig deep in order to recognize that within yourself, to become subjective and really want to make those changes. It wasn't, it wasn't that easy. You had to really search within yourself to make the changes that were necessary for you to be able to carry out your purpose.
Thank you.
Now, is Yvonne, are you done with your explanations?
Yeah.
Or are you?
No, I'm ready to go on to the sun sign whenever. I just stopped between.
Yeah. Okay.
Should I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, my sun sign is Libra, right 3. Libra is an air sign and represents the mental unit that's in the second house. Exoterically, the second house represents substance, resources, and values. The higher spiritual purpose is an environment fostering spiritual values and higher uses of resources. The lower Libra phrase, let choice be made. The higher phrase is, I choose the way which leads between two great lines of force. The exoteric ruler is Venus, 5th ray. The esoteric is Uranus, the 7th ray. Venus in Libra is the point of balance between material, personal desire and intelligent spiritual love. Uranus, the esoteric ruler, is innate spontaneous activity and produces evolutionary development. It is the urge to better conditions. The virtues of Ray 3 is a wide views on abstract questions, sincerity of purpose, clear intellect, capacity for concentration on philosophic studies, patience, caution, absence of tendency to worry himself or others over trifles. I'm not very patient and sometimes not cautious, so there's work to be done here, but I really don't worry over trifles. Negative characteristics of Ray 3, intellectual criticism, coldness, isolation, inaccuracy in details, absent-mindedness, obstinacy, selfishness. I'm guilty of all of them, but not to a great degree. As I progress spiritually, the negative qualities have decreased. The virtues of Ray 3 to be acquired: sympathy, tolerance, devotion, accuracy, and common sense. Tolerance would be my weakest link here. I now try to be tolerant of other people's views. I have to remember to mind my own business, as I said before, and realize people are where they are. I try and remember not to give advice unless asked. Sometimes my know-it-all attitude gets in the way. Aspects of the sun sign Libra. Sun sextiles Pluto, which I know is 60 degrees. The sun conjuncts Mars. The sun trines Uranus, the esoteric ruler, and the sun opposes Earth. See, I do look up the aspects. It just takes me a long time to get them into focus. The exoteric ruler, Venus, sextiles Jupiter. The esoteric ruler, Uranus, sextiles Pluto. And Uranus sextiles Earth, and Uranus trines the sun. Balancing the Sun-Earth axis via the houses. So Libra, Aries is the Sun-Earth axis. The exoteric issue is aggression versus harmony, and self versus society. The positive traits of this axis have come slowly with age and wisdom, and remembering that it's not all about me. The esoteric issue is emerging mental control over the personality, establishing balance and soul control over the personality. One of the quotes that I heard Alice Bailey say that I wanted to mention here, that she's finally gotten to the part where she outgrew her personality. I just love that one. I'm working on outgrowing my personality. The 2nd and 8th house axis, exoteric purpose. The exoteric purpose is to enjoy the world without being consumed by it, give and take in dealing with others. And I'm getting to that point in my life now. The esoteric purpose of the 2-8 house axis is to use the higher spiritual values directed by the soul to transmute the lower desires of the personality, to put my selfish desires aside for the higher group purpose. Sometimes I do feel aggression if I don't get my way, even in an esoteric study group where there is a conflict of interest on what to study, what to do next. When I feel anger and resentment creeping in any situation, even in sports or some social thing, I try to remember harmlessness and think an opposite thought. My meditation themes have helped me. And the bottom line here is putting selfish desires aside for the higher group purpose. My Sun Earth axis is about the soul controlling the personality, as well as the group resources and values overriding personality issues. And as far as labors of Hercules to control the astral nature, I must put the boar of desire up into the mountains. So I have to take that boar up into the mountains and capture it up there and take it to the spiritual plane. And I like this. It's the only labor that ends in laughter. And I think laughter is the best healing medicine. I really do. And I'm glad I'm a Libra. Also, weakness for wine. I have a history of being addicted to alcohol, so I can understand that totally. Getting drunk and doing impulsive things that are very damaging, which is why I'm divorced, and control of the astral nature. So I can really identify with this labor. And the moon in Taurus in the 9th house.
Hold it.
Can I add something here?
Okay.
It's a good time for me to interject a little bit here, because you covered both the ascendant and your sun sign. Now, do you know what mutual reception means?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you know what mutual reception means?
Mutual reception. No, I don't.
Okay, so you have mutual reception, which is kind of cool because it emphasizes these two planets for you. So let me explain it. You've got the sun in Libra, and its ruler is Venus. Venus finds itself in the sign of your ascendant. Now, the ruler of your ascendant is Mercury, and Mercury finds itself in the sun sign of Libra. So they're mutually receptive, it's called, because they're, one is in one and the other one is in the other. And so it emphasizes both those planets for you, and they become very important planets for you. And this is something I'm going to be talking about a little bit later on when you're done. I want to emphasize the importance of Venus in your chart. But that's all I want to say about that. And now, BL, I know you have something to say too.
No, I was going to ask you to say something because I know
Okay.
Libra is near and dear to your heart, but thank you for pointing that out, the mutual reception between the two respective rulers there.
And the other thing is, like I said earlier about the rulers of Libra, that they were all planets of the mind, here you've got it emphasized again. Virgo's ruler is Mercury. It's a mind planet. Libra's ruler is Venus. It's a mind planet. So both these planets of the mind are very important to you, to use your mind and to be able to really think things out, to reason things out, and not use impulse and desire and emotions, which most of us have trouble with. But you have a gift in your chart to be able to access the mind in a particular way. The two most beautiful planets of the mind are in mutual reception with each other. So, you're very fortunate to have that combination. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Well, thank you.
I always like to think of that as walking a mile in the other person's shoes. It gives you such a different perspective and an affinity for what the other person goes through when you have a mutual reception.
So you were ready to go into the moon.
Oh, okay. Well, I told you stop me if I go too fast or I forget to stop. All right, the moon in Taurus in the 9th house. Exoteric 9th house represents spiritual integration, exploration. The esoteric ninth house is an environment fostering spiritual enlightenment, ancient wisdom. The exoteric key phrase, let struggle be undismayed, spoiled and self-indulged, an appetite for sensuous experience. Self-discipline is needed to transmute lower desires into aspiration and to stop struggling for non-important things of material value but with no spiritual value. So as I mentioned, I have a history of addictions, a recovering alcoholic. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous 40 years ago when I realized alcohol was destroying my life and marriage. I've also had a hard time stopping smoking. I took 6 attempts before that worked. And I'm working on my last addiction now, compulsive overeating and sugar addiction. So I've lost my desire for acquiring material possessions too. I'm 76 and I just need enough to be comfortable. So the esoteric key phrase is, I see, and when the eye is open, all is light. This must be used to transform old patterns. And the negative traits of Taurus are stubbornness, self-indulgent behavior, laziness, materialistic, possessive personality. The positive traits to cultivate are dependability, practicality, patience, independence, and persistence. And these traits, I think, I've developed to a large degree. The exoteric ruler is Venus, Ray 5. The esoteric ruler is Vulcan, Ray 1. Taurus is Ray 4 energy. The virtues of Ray 4 are strong affections, sympathy, physical courage, generosity, devotion, quickness of intellect, and perception. The vices of Ray 4 are self-centeredness, worrying, inaccuracy, lack of moral courage, strong passions, indolence, and extravagance. Virtues to be acquired with Ray 4: serenity, self-control, purity, unselfishness, accuracy, mental and moral balance. Venus, the exoteric ruler, Ray 5. Ray 5, Ray energy stands for the emergence of the love principle through the directing power of the concrete mind. In Taurus, the Venus mind expresses itself through intelligent desire, for that is the goal of ordinary man. Vulcan is the esoteric ruler, Ray 1, to bend the will of the little self to that of the soul. Vulcan represents tests of endurance that help bring in the light of the soul. The aspects of the moon in Taurus. The moon is squaring Pluto. And I understand that Pluto is the lower Vulcan, so again, death and destruction to the old way of life and bringing in the new for me. How the moon aspects Taurus rulers, so that would be Venus in Virgo exoterically. Venus is both the exoteric ruler of my sun and moon, and relates both even superficially to my ascendant via the sign of Virgo. Vulcan is the esoteric ruler of my ascendant, and he's also the ruler of my chart in support of my soul purpose, with both Venus and Vulcan impacting my moon and sun and connecting to my ascendant. And shall I go on to the midheaven? Midheaven, MC point is in Taurus, career goals and environment fostering, development of spiritual responsibility. I met all my career goals as a professional. I think I am becoming spiritually responsible to myself and to others. And the nadir, the IC point is in Scorpio. I really have nothing in there. It's home, domestic relationship, and past karmic ties. My mother was a Scorpio. I love Scorpio now, and I like to study the 9 heads of the Hydra. And I want to relate something that you helped me with, Eva, that when we did that for the full moon, and there were people, and I said, you understand that these first 3 heads are the physical first initiation, the second, the emotional, and then the control of the mental body, the third one. And I said, oh my, we'll never get done. We have to be here. We have to get all these done before we can proceed. And I said, I have a good teacher who says you just do a little bit, as you know, you don't do 100% of each one as you move on. You gave me something on that once, Eva, that I kept. Ascendant is the house Virgo, is inner self, personality.
Okay. I think that's good. I did want you to get to the MC and the IC because of the Scorpio labor there, because basically we talked about Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio, and you've been able to hit each one of them and relate to them.
I have one more quote on Scorpio.
And do we see the Scorpio glyph down at the bottom of the page? See, this one is well drawn. You see how that?
Yeah. Say something about the Scorpio thing. The word of counsel by the teacher: we rise by kneeling, we conquer by surrendering, we gain by giving up. A long time passes before an individual realizes he is nourishing and sustaining so fierce a creature, as you said, Theo. But I think that is so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think, Yvonne, you did awesome. You really did. I think you captured yourself in this chart and explained yourself extremely well. So we were able to follow your reasoning and your examples based on the things that you pointed out. And you've come a long way, babe, as they say. So thank you for that. I very much appreciate that. So do you have more, or can I jump in now and give you some other things I see in the chart?
Yeah, please go ahead. Number one, I agree with you. Thank you very much, Yvonne. You did exactly what we asked you to do. You went through, you looked at all of the key things, and like you said, you didn't understand some of it. It's what I told you, but you presented it, and I love the fact that you were able to tie in the labors of Hercules in the way that you were able to do that. So yes, please go ahead, Eva.
Okay, so with respect to personality here, we see a lot of strong, powerful planets that are in aspect to each other that is easy or it's flowing. So let me look at Vulcan. You know, I'm doing circles on my chart, but you don't see it, so I need to be able to do it. We have Vulcan and we have Mars right beside it. So it energizes those two because they are conjunct, right? Then we see how they are trined way up to the top of the chart, the highest placement in the chart. You have both Uranus and Saturn, another couple of power planets. And these two are trying to each other, which means the flow of power, control issues, anger, aggression is easy for you. Whether you've thought about it or not, it's just easy. And then you also have Mars right next to the Sun. So it's conjunct the Sun. So it brings in Vulcan, Mars, and the Sun. They are all together as a unit because they're so close in degrees to each other. And again, that is trined with what's at the top of the chart. So you can see how you've had to tame down those impulses of aggression, of being in control, and so on. You also have Pluto and Leo, which is it's easy aspects. It's a sextile to the powerhouse at the top of the chart, and down to the Mars. It's sextile there, or to the Sun. So it too is brought into the equation of control, power, first rate. Even though it may or may not be part of your personality, you definitely would use that energy, and we would see that within you. Would you agree with all of that so far?
Yes.
Okay. So for you, it has been a challenge to work with those energies, to tame them down, to make them so that they're not, you don't come on too strong, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. Okay, that's one combination of energies. The other thing that's very worthwhile to take into consideration is the ruler of Libra. The ruler of Libra is Venus. It is also the ruler of your moon, which is in Taurus. So Venus is the ruler of your moon, it's the ruler of your sun, and it's in the first house where your identity is. So what is it that we know about Venus? We know it deals on the exoteric level. It deals with partners. It deals with love, what we don't love. Then we can spiral up a little bit and we look at what do we value, what do we appreciate, and then we spiral up even higher, and then we can look at relationships and with others and how do we relate to others. It's a powerful, powerful planet for you. Not only is it the ruler of the two that I've mentioned here, the sun and the moon, but if we look at the powerhouse at the top of the chart there, both those planets are in Gemini. And in Gemini, the rulers are Mercury, which we have talked about because it's the ruler of your ascendant, and esoterically, it's Venus. So with those two planets in mutual reception, their power is emphasized yet again. So you've got it at the ruler of the powerhouse at the top of the chart, you've got it the ruler of your moon, and you've got it the ruler of that entire stellium in Libra. So if we were to look at dispositors, I am sure we would end up with Venus as your dispositor, which means we end up with Venus as the most important planet for you. So I would highly recommend that you look at what does all of that mean. Now, I have some notes that I made on that because I've been thinking about that. And let me read to you what I wrote down here. Venus is pure love wisdom, and it falls in the sign of Virgo. I relate with that because I have that too. It falls in this sign occultly. What does that mean when something falls? When it falls, it's the opposite of exalted. When a planet is exalted, it's acting in the most beneficial position that it can be. When it falls, it's not beneficial at all. So when it falls in this sign, occultly, it is called, it descends to earth. And it stands for the gift of the mind and of divinity. And both those, the mind and divinity, is embodied in the soul or the son of mind. And it descends into matter. So in other words, it falls from its high place, descends right down into matter as the Christ principle in the womb or the cave of the heart. But it's in matter, you see. It's within the personality. Does that make sense before I go on?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Virgo and Venus are together two aspects of intelligence. I kind of talked a little bit about that. And Venus, with its fifth ray, makes the mind synthetic. It actually puts a lot of beauty in the mind. It brings greater clarity to the mind, and it shines light into the mind. So Venus, as a planet of the mind, brings with it such beauty. It really does. And through the mind, we can transmute the love to wisdom, if you know what I mean. Wisdom can be transmuted because wisdom is a combination of both intelligence and love. It all leads to wisdom. So even though it falls in this sign, there is positive way of looking at it. On the downside, Venus and Virgo would be the picky one that sees everything that isn't right. It exaggerates all of that. And so you would see what isn't right in someone else, you'd see what isn't right in your home, and you go around trying to make it as beautiful as you can. Hey, I know that one. So, that the critical eye of Venus and Virgo is very strong because Venus wants everything to be beautiful, in harmony, perfect. And let's face it, is anything really perfect? So we tend to see what isn't. So that is another thing that is meant to be spiraled up to the higher, which is what I talked about before. Okay, So that's Venus, how important Venus is for you, and for you to, if you get a chance to really think about how you use your Venus in your everyday life. Do you use it to see what isn't right, or do you really try to use it to bring beauty into the mind? The other thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter and Neptune, both of them are exalted in Cancer. And I think, BL, you have that too, right? Jupiter in Cancer.
Yes.
Yes. So maybe you can talk to how you experience that a little bit later on too. But I've got quite a few notes on that. And it's the use of the form, which Cancer also represents. Let's not forget the mother. It's the mother of form, because it's ruled by the moon. So it's the use of the form aspect and the development of the psychic sensitivity, both in higher and lower senses. And remember, when something is exalted, it's in the best position that it can possibly be. These are important developments, we're told, for the soul who has chosen to incarnate, because Cancer represents birth and rebirth. It's also about building adequate forms, and the use and control of that form is essential if there is to be a wise and right cooperation with the plan of God. So that's another thing about Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter guarantees this in Cancer from a very initial stage of birth. Love as relationship to divinity, and wisdom as related to the form. And these lie behind the soul's intent. So you have the capacity with Jupiter to both have love and wisdom, one with relationship to divinity or to the soul or to the spirit, and the other within the form. And so for a long, long time, it's the form that has controlled. And now with this placement, it's more of the fluid psychic nature that starts to have its power. It becomes a perfect instrument of service, especially if you're an initiate. At this point, you seek to render mass service, which I think you do because you have it in the 11th house, which is the house of group, and you do it within the groups, instead of being involved and lost in the mass. So you bring that ability of intuition, love, and wisdom within your group environment that you have worked very hard to create. And you create a very safe and comfortable, because Cancer does, it's like an ashram, it's like a womb. You create that comfortable environment for that to shine within you. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
It's a little esoteric, but I thought I'd put another spin on things here. You know what? I think, I don't want to go into too many details here, but I think you covered most of the important things, and I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
The other thing, I'm sorry, at the top of the chart, Uranus and Saturn, that has to do with freedom and control. It's because they are so close together. I wonder how you have dealt with freedom in your life, wanting to be free, wanting to be able to do things your own way, versus control that society sets upon you, or you yourself wanting to live up to the controls that are necessary to live a certain kind of life. So it's almost a dichotomy. It's opposites in nature. One is free, and the other creates those circles, those rings around, and confinement around self. So has that been a battle for you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the areas I wanted to hit.
Many people have pointed that out. William Mader, he says, you have two opposing things that are fighting each other. This must have been real interesting in your profession in the 10th house there. And I said it was a constant battle. Yeah,
it is, because they're opposite,
Yeah.
and they're at the top of your chart. I mean, so again, it takes an important placement here. It's in the 10th house, and this is what others see. The 10th house is the way you show yourself to the world, as far as a profession is concerned, or your career, or whatever. On the one hand, there is the freedom that you would probably fight for the freedom. And on the other hand, there is authority. There is what's the word I'm looking for? Convention. There is following the societal norms.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I do it, but I don't like it sometimes. I've always been told I'm a good employee because I listen to people. I listen to whoever's above me anyway. But I do like to be in control.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, you can see all the control planets, how easily it flows from you, because there is no obstruction to that. They are all in favorable aspects. So, because you have the potential to really use your mind, it is through the light of the mind, because Venus will add the light of the mind together with the Mercury. It's through the light of the mind that you will progress in this incarnation. You've got a sign that deals with the mind, and you've got an ascendant that deals with the mind. You have a sun sign that deals with the mind. You can really move along, and you're doing exactly what your chart is telling you to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Bial.
Well, I just wanted to say that not only do I have my Jupiter in Cancer, I have mine in my first house, so I deal a little differently with it, hence my weight problem. But I was going to say the same thing that you said, Eva, that, it's that greater capacity for that love and wisdom and compassion to go towards the group, because it is, in fact, in the 11th house.
Mm-hmm,
And,
mm-hmm.
and then, I look at the aspects and the way everything plays out. And you did a good job of pointing some of those things out earlier. I just want to leave you with one thought on that, and that's Chiron here at 24 Leo in your 12th house is square your IC-MC axis. And so that's an important fixed T-square for you. With an important planet to you. And what it does is it shows your ashramic roots and your spiritual goals here, working with Chiron, but not in the best, not in a favorable way, like Eva was talking about with the good flow of energy that's going on here. This is a tough aspect on the fixed cross, and it points directly to the missing point here in the 6th house opposite of Chiron, which is, of course, the house of healing and service and work. So these are part of your Scorpio tests, part of your Taurus illumination, using these other things that Eva just talked about. And bringing that wounded healer, that compassionate healing that has been so important to your life into the work of healing and service of this 6th house. So it's like a 3-legged stool, and you need 4 legs to make it work properly. You're missing this aspect of it here in your natal chart, but because that was a main focus in your life for you, and you actually manifested it, I would say that planets that transited through your 4th house and then into your 6th house and then to your MC and then back over to Chiron right before they hit your ascendant, they all worked together to make that stuff happen, to make you be the best healer that you could be in fulfillment of this Virgo ascendant.
You know, just to add a little to what you just said, which you are dead right about this. Many times we look at Chiron as almost parallel or equivalent to Virgo. So Chiron and Virgo go hand in hand. They both are about adjustments. So even though you have that nothing in the sixth house, you have Virgo, you see, and Virgo is about, what do I need to adjust to bring myself into a state of, well, heal, perfection, bring that myself into that right state. So even though you have nothing in that sixth house, you can definitely use that Virgo energy to complement what is necessary to adjust within yourself to make yourself whole and healed.
And you've shown us how you did that with the examples of your life as you went through and discussed your ascendant and your sun. So thank you very much, Yvonne. That was a great interpretation of your chart, and I hope that Eva and I have both added to your understanding of all these energies here and how they're playing out for you.
Yes, you have, and I really, really enjoy it, and I hope that I retain it and continue studying it, and thank you for all your time.
And it's beautiful to see how the chart becomes the way in which you live your life. I mean, what better evidence do we need than seeing how accurate this chart is for you, really?
Well, I'm going to stay in Warrior Federation. I'm not going to quit. I have all my progress charts show all Sagittarius. So for a while there, I was thinking about taking the easier, softer way, but I changed my mind and decided I couldn't do any work for the masters that way. I had to be of service. So I will continue best I can.
I applaud you. There's my hand, a clapping hand.
Well, you're the one that got me into it, Eva.
I know.
7 years ago, remember?
Yeah, I remember so well, and I'm so glad you're still in it, and I'm so glad you progressed the way you have. You've shown terrific fortitude and a desire to want to, an aspiration to want to, reach higher heights. Yeah.
Yeah. I have that.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, excellent work.
Thank you both so much.
Yes, excellent work. Does anybody have any questions for Yvonne before we say good night? Okay. Well, I don't see any. So again, thank you. Well done, Yvonne.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for all your work, both of you.
Okay.
And our next webinar is going to be on, looks like Saturday, December 1st.
First, yeah.
December 1st. And we have 2 guest speakers who will continue another couple of labors, and then we have 2 guest speakers. So I'll see you.
So BL, with the change in time, we're still meeting at 3 o'clock, whatever.
Yes, well, because we adjust here in North America, we adjust our time this coming weekend.
Yeah.
Is it tonight already?
Yeah.
Then yes, what we'll do is we'll go 8 p.m. GMT for those of you in different time zones, and that equates to those of us in the Eastern time zone at 3 p.m. So
Right.
it remains the same time for us, but I'm adjusting the GMT time. So the next one will be 1 December at 8 p.m. GMT. So we hope to see you all there, and thank you for attending.